I don't think we have any announcements or communications. The minutes from the last meeting, April 8th, are available, so if there's any changes, please make them and get them to Brooke, because they'll be at our next legislative meeting. So to start for the report and recommendations, the first, 123 through 322, those were, we did first readings of those at the April 29th legislative meeting. So these are up for second reading. It's just not noted in the agenda. So on 123, we had reviewed the AR last time as well, so you know that. We did not review, however, the AR for 322. So we can review them all again. I just wanted to note that 322 had not been reviewed at the last policy meeting.
For AR 123,
Mm-hmm.
all of the attachments, we're putting on letterhead, because right now they're just kind of D through I, are just strung as one big document. So we're making all separate attachments for the legislative meeting. And the code, I did talk to Eric, he is still working on a coaching manual, so it references that there's a coaching manual that has all the rules and regulations and things, and he's working on it.
He told me the same thing as well. I told him that it needs to be wrapped up.
Yeah, I was gonna, do we have an idea of when that's gonna be completed?
I told him by the end of May, by Memorial Day weekend.
Okay, great.
Because that way,
Yeah, he was working
I
on
want
it.
time to review it, to make sure that everything is congruent.
Yeah.
I'd like the cabinet to look at it so that we're all looking at it from different lenses, and then that way it's good to go for all sports.
Just to call people's attention to it, we did add the words beginning as soon as the seventh grade. It didn't make it into the first reading, but I don't think that's a substantive change. It should be a problem.
Okay.
Now, we just about that. Is that just because of PIAA rules or?
No, we said that's what we agreed to
Yeah,
last
we-
meeting.
Mhm.
It just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then there was some, we did make several changes to the AR 123, which I believe have all been
In the AR 123, did you see in there that we talk about how, that's down the ways, I don't know. There's a reference to club sports beginning like the 2016-17 school year. We can probably just remove that
Yeah.
phrase since that's what we're required now, so.
We saw this.
Okay. All right. Where is that? I'll just remove.
on page 6 and 10.
Yeah.
There, under administrative procedure for recognition / renewal of athletic clubs.
Right there.
Should I dive in?
Yeah, please go for it.
So move first.
I want to start with policy.
Policy.
So in the policy under guidelines, find the right spot. It says, so now it says, interscholastic and club sports must follow. But later on, we also include intramural as a definition. Do we just mean all sports? Or do we really just mean interscholastic and clubs? I think we mean all.
I think we mean all as well.
I think we mean all sports, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Or mean.
you know, intramural sorry, teams in interscholastic, which
Right under guidelines, so teams in interscholastic and club sports must follow the requirements for recognition as explained in AR.
right, I don't think we have any art for recognition for anything other than club or for,
Club isn't PIAA, club is like even less than.
interscholastic.
No, club's not in, yeah, only, so only for interscholastic.
We only have PAR, let me just double check that, but we only have recognition requirements for interscholastic and club. It just simply says for intramural, it's just a variety of programs shall be offered to students. So we don't have any recognition criteria for intramural sports. Nor do you need any.
think I misunderstood.
Maybe we don't need the words, the requirements for recognition of all, just that all teams are supposed to follow the AR. That says, that doesn't really say anything then, so, I don't know.
Well, what it should say is that guidelines, just say guidelines for recognition.
Right. Okay.
You don't have to worry about it every.
Okay, yeah, okay, that works. My next comment, the last sentence in that paragraph didn't make sense to me because it says, interscholastic sports are offered subject to PIAA rules and regulations, whether or not it's typically regulated. So it's not regulated by PIAA, there are presumably no regulations from PIAA. So I don't understand this sentence.
Things like eligibility requirements, things like civility for referees, things like appearance, respect rules for spectators. Basically what we're saying is, even if there's a sport, for example, like hockey, it's not specifically governed by the PIAA, to the extent that they apply, we still go by the PIAA sports. We don't want to have to go back and create a list of all of the things that
Okay, so, yeah, so I think it would help clarify that your language was to the extent that they apply, like something similar to that, and help clarify this. Otherwise, it just, as it's written, it just.
All right, so then we'll put it after regulations to the extent they apply, whether the competition is specifically regulated.
Yeah, I like that.
For eligibility, you say they have to maintain a passing grade during the term of the sport. How is that measured? Do we need to say how it's measured?
So we're going to do.
Under eligibility, should
She's not gonna know.
In the,
Word of mouth.
in the AR.
it could be, it's nowhere right
I
now.
don't see the
It would just be through our weekly eligibility runs that we do, high school and middle school.
It's right in the first paragraph. It must maintain passing grades in all subjects during the term of the interscholastic activity in which the student is participating. But is it like a bottom line grade for every course? Is it your overall, like there, if you look at Schoology or PAC, there's a bunch of grades there, which is all.
It would be the bottom line grade each course. So we can put that in the AR.
So I know recently,
Well, we don't have to do it now. Where is it
We
now?
just start with the policy probably.
We just said, the reason I think somewhere we use procedures here is because they're going in the,
yeah, this can go in the AR, but it's not defined anywhere right now where.
okay,
Where that's
we
how
would
it's-
need to go, we would need to find out what they are, what those processes are, how we help students regain academic standing, regaining team eligibility. We need to know what's in place in order to put it in the AR.
Yeah.
I mean, that American Bob Schultz.
But you don't need to change this language at all.
Steve Pickford.
You do.
I don't think, as long as it's defined somewhere, I think, in the AR, I think it's fine.
Okay, so you're okay with both paragraphs then?
Yeah, there's a interesting period at the end of the sentence. in the second one.
After financial obligations, is there?
This period.
Under financial, oh, there it is, I see it, I didn't see it, I'm sorry. And then, last comment on this policy, under other eligibility standards, so it starts with each student who participates, and then ends with before participating. And that seems to conflict.
Well,
I don't think we need the word.
Just drop who participates, I
In the
think.
first
Just
sentence.
drop the who participates in the first
Each
sentence.
student involved in, or,
Each student must be covered
We can stop.
before
We
participating.
can stop the paragraph.
Each student must be covered is how I would do it.
yeah,
Fine.
before participating.
Yeah, that'll work.
Stop the paragraph before participating.
Yeah, if you're participating in any interscholastic athletic activity, each student
Right.
must be covered by the maximum student. Do it that way.
So take out everything.
So yes, we'll take that last part, yeah, before participating in an interscholastic athletic activity, move it up to the very beginning. And then have a comma, each student, and then take out who participates in interscholastic athletics. Then you said each student must be covered by it.
Would you discuss with each, would it be for participating a student
Yeah.
or all students?
All students
That's
must.
funny, I'm lost.
Okay.
Removing,
I'm taking this part out, right?
So at the very end of the sentence, it says,
Yeah.
before participating, take that whole clause and put
And
it
that's
in
the
the beginning.
beginning of the sentence now.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then each student can be all students. And then you have an extra comma after position. Everyone good with that? Okay. That's all I have for the policy. I have to do the AR, so.
I have a couple, just one, well, two things in the policy. Under philosophy and purpose, so we say beginning no sooner than 7th grade, but then in the next line we say provide an opportunity for students
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
all ages
I understand.
and, so take out all ages and.
Yeah.
So it's students of all ability levels to develop good sportsmanship and cooperation. I don't know that we need, not just in the context of the district educational program, but also, since it's a policy about athletics. So I would also take out, not just in the context of the district's educational program, but also.
Right, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I missed the, I was trying to find the space in the
You
edit
know what,
feature.
I can do all these, because we're not gonna be here to go back to the first read of this, or the second, go back.
No, I think
to the
there's
first
probably
read.
first, there's enough changes.
I can understand. Okay, perfect.
Kind of move on to the AR.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's it. Steve, did you get the other one in too?
I'm sorry?
Did you get all your, did you get all of them? Okay.
All right, a lot of these are minor, there's a period missing at the end of 2B at the beginning. So I have a question, and I asked this question last month, and I didn't know the answer, or we didn't finish discussing or something, but in bullet 7, there's a list of things to be considered for establishing a new team. Is this an exhaustive list? Does it include but not limited to, or do we really mean this is the list? I think we probably mean include but not limited to, because if we have some other reason that we haven't come up with yet,
Right.
somebody will
Yes.
say, well, you didn't say you were going to consider that.
You're still gonna say it, you know, let's say that, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Becomes at least slightly more expensive.
Right, back to be considered.
But what are we saying?
All right, so
Including but not limited to, so the following, how about after team, include but not limited to?
About the criteria to be considered with respect to establishment, or includes but is not limited to.
Yeah.
Under scheduling, in the third paragraph, is the parents, there should be parents, guardians.
What else are we?
Scroll down to
Yes, down a bit now.
Schedule.
Let's see, under scheduling.
Parents, this is parents shall be informed.
Right.
Let's see it.
Under transportation. Let's see. Find it. Transportation. So there's all the stuff about gender. Such provision of transportation will be supplied to both male and female students, which seems to leave out non-binaries.
All students, yeah.
Based upon considerations other than the gender, which this is a very defensive sort of statement. Do we need this? Or do we?
I don't think we can. I think we can just say all students.
Yeah.
The rest of that, right, because when you read it, it reads from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah.
So will be supplied to all students
And then just,
And then delete everything until overnight trips require board approval,
well, just that,
right?
So we
also like based upon, isn't it, so we're,
What was originally, what they were trying to do here was to say, look, we're gonna transport our teams, but we're not gonna just transport the boys' teams and not the girls' teams.
Right, yeah.
So are we saying that we transfer to all interscholastic athletic teams? We transport all of them to all of their events?
I think it's in the definition of interscholastic sports. I
Well-
mean, it doesn't say that, but I think that's what we mean. when we
Yes.
go for- Part of being called an interscholastic sport is that transportation is included.
Okay. All right,
I mean, am I
then we
right?
don't need
Is
anything,
that true?
we don't need anything other than overnight transfer required work.
That's what I mean, I don't understand the sentence, like such, if I just take out male and female, such provision of transportation will be supplies to everyone based upon considerations other than, okay, gender, and may depend on a number of other factors. So are we not doing transportation to everybody then?
It seems like we're kind of reserving the right to not provide transportation in some cases, but not because of gender.
Right.
So we can't, so gender can't be a reason
Right.
to deny transportation. I think is what this is trying to,
I think so.
and I'm
So-
wondering whether that's something we still need to say. Because it's a really convoluted way to say it. It's
Right,
really,
it's just- right.
really.
Right, I mean, it could be like, we reserve the right to, you know, I mean, I don't know, it's like, it seems like a Title IX type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to comply with Title IX anyway. Like, do we need this language?
I think this is what you're doing. Or you're actually transporting them.
Well, let's say,
Yeah.
let's say we did have some reason we wanted to not transport, and I don't know what that reason would be. But it hasn't, but in reality, it has nothing to do with gender. Do we even need to say we won't necessarily provide? I guess we probably need to say we won't necessarily provide transportation.
I mean, because the first
Or we
sentence,
could-
we are gonna provide transportation to everybody, is what it says, the first sentence, and the second sentence seems to, I don't know. I guess it's talking about interscholastic, I don't understand.
I think there could be a conversation in future years about, do we transport at district cost to every competition, or do we say we only transport to terminal competitions? Given the amount of money that we spend in transportation for games.
So we want to at least be able to have that conversation. Or maybe we just leave it alone. I mean, I think it's a little still, I mean, I was changing all the male and female to all students, but.
Should I still keep
The-
it in the based upon, from based upon concept or?
How about- The district will provide transportation for all extracurricular activity teams, including transportation, blah, blah, blah. To the extent the extent to which transportation is provided may depend on a number of factors, including but not limited to athletic or competitive opportunities presented.
I like that.
Mhm. So we're providing transportation to all interscholastic teams, and we're also providing transportation to, in that second sentence, what is that covering?
It says we'll provide transportation to teams, but it doesn't say to all competitions.
Yeah, what if somebody said, I want to send my soccer team on a trip, on an exhibition game against some team in South Delaware?
Well, let's say, wait, I just, yeah, we'll provide, okay, so it's not, we're providing transportation all the time to all the athletic teams? We'll always provide your team at least one transport to a meet or a game or something like that. Because this is, I mean, that's the thing, the district will provide transportation of interscholastic athletic teams, including transportation to competitions that require longer than usual travel distances. That's all in the first sentence.
Yeah, I don't
I don't understand
This whole paragraph seems,
Transportation.
we should revisit, just have somebody figure out what we.
All right,
do we
I know-
do?
I know what
Yeah.
you want, I'll figure it out.
What we really do.
I know what
That's
you
the thing, what are we doing, what are we trying to say we're doing or not doing?
What I hear you saying is you want to stop bringing the gender distinction in because you don't need it. That we want to basically send a message that we provide transportation to everybody, but we reserve the right that if we think a particular request by a particular team is beyond the pale, that we can say no.
I think that's what
Mhm.
I think so, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Just shortly below that, under requirements for recognition of club sports. Number 3, the club president must be an adult.
I like that.
Do we
It can't be
need
kid.
Yeah.
So in clubs, like high school clubs, the president is a student. So what is the president of a club sport exactly?
Parent.
Okay, so I mean, I just have no exposure to this, that just took me by surprise. So that's normal, the club president is supposed to be an adult.
Yeah, because we're making sign a whole bunch of forms, and it would be appropriate that I can do it.
Okay.
21 years old.
All right, and then
Resident.
in the next section down, administrative procedure for recognition, bullet 3 has the same non-exhaustive or exhaustive list question.
Under what number?
Number 3 in the next section.
You can say it, but
The
not
window is so
limited.
little, it's hard for me to see where I am. And,
Yeah.
As you can
No, that's
see, it's,
okay.
So you're under administrative, number 3 for administrative procedure for recognition renewal of athletic clubs.
Yeah, this is the same question as
Yeah,
before.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
But not limited to.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the 30.
And then the last thing, under, at the bottom, under intramural sports, not the very bottom, shortly below it, before the red. A variety of after-school programs shall be offered in all grades, beginning in 7th grade. So we are compelling ourselves to offer after-school athletic programs. Is that really what we mean?
It's still difficult though. Hold on just a second.
That's what it says.
I know, I'm asking you, do we? Like, that's not,
We went back and forth. We actually talked about this last time. We cut shall, we crossed it out, I wrote may, and then we came back to shall.
okay, if we had this discussion already.
But I'm not saying you can't, I'm just making, refreshing.
I don't want to open
That's
another
good.
jar, we have a lot of policies to go through, if we've already discussed
Yeah.
it. All right.
Okay. Tom does have to be out a little early, so we want to try to get some of the 300s in when he's here, so.
Yeah, we can, I'm done with this one if we want to move on to either 300s or something.
Okay, so we also need to add in the procedures about,
So that can't go for
Now
second.
we're just-
I think over
That's fine,
second,
I'm not
I
sure
think
where
it's
this
still
is.
add.
no, we already said we were going for first reading.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta do that and then say.
And the AR has the same language that
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
There were sections where it's academic.
Thank you.
So it would be the same for both, or you just want to put it in the AR to cover.
The policy now says that.
Student academic eligibility is on page 2 of 3,
Right.
but then it's also on page 2 of 10 in the AR and on page 4 of 10 in the AR, so I just figured it was.
Yeah, it should be the usual generic statement of the policy.
Yeah, but what we
we
don't
need-
have,
we need to
And we need that, we need to define those.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm getting that.
okay, but what we're missing is the procedures for students identifying and having academic difficulty,
Right.
help them with academic standing. That's not in here.
I'm getting that from,
Yeah.
I'll get that from.
I just making sure it was 100%.
Yeah, no, so the policy 123 is actually going to go for another first read since we made changes to the policy. And so technically, we'll be seeing the AR back here at the next policy committee meeting. So we're not going to have to be, we don't have to be totally ready to go on the AR at the end of May here. So,
I don't have nearly as many comments about any other policy.
okay. So policy, if we're good with that, 130 is still, we're waiting for the AR essentially. So this is just a repeated first read is the plan, and so we're still working on the.
There'll be a draft AR at next month's policy.
Great.
I do have one comment on the policy wording
Mhm.
on 130. Let me just pull it up. My note was that under delegation, so now if you read the complete sentence, it's really awkward. The new complete sentence without the red. It says, which is supported for each level, colon, elementary, middle, and high school, which probably should have a comma, because it's extended in the which clause, to fulfill the above purposes, to be shared with parents and reviewed periodically. And it's one big long run-on sentence with this weird clause in the middle and a missing comma. It just, I understand we were trying to be efficient in the way we edited, but the end of the sentence ends up really.
I think we could just say the superintendent or designee shall promulgate, well, I can't even say it today. Regulations for homework which are supported for each level, elementary, middle school, and high school, to fulfill the purposes of the policy.
Right. If we want, we can.
So we
put
don't need to
period.
share with parents and review periodically and
You can use that as
the
a
policy?
Just make a second sentence that says, such procedure shall be.
Yeah, that would be good.
Oh. It's still first.
There also needs an Oxford comma after middle.
Yes.
There's plenty of other, I have lots of Oxford comma
Yes.
comments throughout.
So
Would
I'm
that be
taking
your
after B,
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
taking shared with parents,
Right,
that's
and
it.
one item, that would be one item.
I'm moving it up there.
Yeah, it already is there, because we pressed that every.
Oh, right, cross
To
that.
fulfill the above.
It just is not
So you
because
just
it's
put a
still a
period
right
after purposes,
Yeah.
and then say such procedures shall be.
Share with parents.
Alright.
Yeah,
Alright, so with those changes, this is gonna be, well, no, still, I mean, it's a first read, it's gonna be repeated first read, so as
Yeah.
Dr.
You also need
Young
a
said.
comma after high school.
Alright, so we will see it back at the next, meeting.
So repeat first read.
Yeah, so we'll see that and as well as the,
With
with the AR, the June policy committee.
Since you're editing that one anyway, there are two missing Oxford commas in the first sentence. That's one third. Then we're
Perfect.
down with one for A.
Alright,
Yep.
so three, like I said, 321 and 320, we both looked at those, and those were at first reads at the last legislative meeting. Do we have any changes to 321?
I have a question about 321. There are two missing Oxford commas in addition, but my question is.
Which paragraph is that now?
Yeah, 321 now?
Oh,
I'm on 321.
okay.
So is 321 about public office or any political activity? Are they, like, for instance, officers for the union? It doesn't say, I think we mean public, I read the whole thing as meaning public office, but
Oh, it's
Well-
public office, it's also pretty issue oriented. You know, if you're campaigning to gun control or abortion.
it's still decisions by public officials.
Correct.
Well, the definition of campaigning, it says campaigning means actively soliciting votes or campaign contributions for a candidate for public office.
Oh, I see.
It
Okay,
says it in there, so.
all right.
He was too busy picking out the Oxford.
I know.
So under guidelines, near,
But it does say the policy does not apply to students or student organizations or to collective bargaining units within the district.
okay, all right, so that's probably.
Yeah.
So then my question is under guidelines number 6.
To protected union activity.
Which policy doesn't apply, number 6, player.
I'm trying to find it before I,
Right here. Oops.
what is employee representative elections?
Union.
Union.
Where,
Number 6, yeah, that's.
So
that's
it's
what it
just
is.
reinforcing the earlier
Yeah.
public office
Mhm.
statement.
Yeah, that's saying we're specifically not talking about the unions.
Since I didn't see the public office that, okay.
Yeah.
Now that makes more sense.
we don't need we don't need it by the, we don't need it in the first paragraph of the purpose thing.
That's all I had.
So it's a reduction or changes then.
So am I taking it out of the purpose? Did I just hear you say that? Taking this sentence out under purpose, because it's down
Mhm.
in number 6,
No, that,
or leaving it?
this is,
Yeah,
no, that's still.
yeah, that stays there. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think you've made any changes.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Except for
Oxford commas, yes.
I
There's
found-
one
I
in
found-
definitions and one in the intro to guidelines.
Okay. All right, besides the Oxford commas.
Literature, science, comma, or. And then 2 paragraphs down,
I think I got it.
policies, administrative regulations. Oh,
Yeah, I got it.
oh, you got them.
Yeah.
All right, that's a second read then. 320 is a second read. All right,
That's 321.
yes, yes.
You said 320. I heard 320.
Now 320. Now we can go 320.
Um,
Also, hopefully is a second read.
So my only comment on this one is just very broadly, I'm somewhat nervous that we are stifling valuable input by, I mean, I don't think any of the change, it's the existing policy, it's not new language, but the whole policy, I mean, is there adequate mechanism for teachers to reach out to their elected public officials if they are, if they're residents of the district, for example, and they have a concern as a resident or a parent or whatever. This seems to say that they can't, it implies at least that they can't, it appears to stifle that expression to me.
I think it stifles expression when it creates a conflict of interest. So I'll give you an example. So if, let's say we had elementary Spanish and we were going to cut elementary Spanish, and the elementary Spanish teacher got up and said, I can't believe the board would do this, this is short-sighted, that's something that that person could be disciplined for, because it creates a conflict of interest.
Correct, or if they started rallying up their parents of their students, please show up at a school board meeting to save my job.
What if it's not their job, though? So what if, I mean, I clearly hear it, if,
Right.
we're considering some decision that's going to materially affect that
Sure.
livelihood and.
So if I'm not,
Yeah.
suppose I am a math teacher in the high school, no, I'm sorry, suppose that I'm a,
You're a member of the association for some other reason. You're a math teacher in the high school and we're considering eliminating elementary Spanish, but Cook loves elementary Spanish. I think it's been a really good program for your child. The sort of thing somebody's going to get up and say if they're not under the.
but that's not conflict.
Okay. If it's not, all right, if it's clearly not, doesn't apply to that, then I'm okay.
Well, you can't use district resources.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't use district resources, that makes sense.
You can't try to create a fake website page or.
But in a situation in which an employee's expression could conflict with the district's interest,
They shall
this,
recognize.
and this is, this is an employee's opinion, expression, even though it's not directly related to their job.
Number 8, that seems more of the refrain from making public expression which disrupts normal district or school operations.
Right.
That seems,
I was thinking
Fairly
that's
broad.
for people out in the hallway.
huh?
I was thinking that meant for other people out in the hallway.
Okay,
Now, it could also mean,
that seems fairly broad.
also mean you can't stand up, the teacher can't stand up and break the principal.
Like,
Yeah. Right.
but
There should be a regulation that goes with this that gives examples.
I feel like a lot of this reads like a regulation. Does anyone else feel like
Yes.
that, or am I in the minority there?
It hadn't occurred to me, but I think you're right.
Well, yes, except for when you're talking about putting limitations on it, that really does need to be
Okay.
on board.
Yes.
The regulation
Yeah.
can do
That-
things like give examples.
Give examples,
and things like that, so I can
Yeah.
put together a regulation that gives examples.
I mean, what you're saying is people can talk they can say things. They have to make sure it's clear that it's their view.
I mean, the other
It's
alternative
not the
would
district.
be that the district the board chooses to limit freedom of expression for employees to the extent permitted by law. You could have that be your policy, and you wouldn't need all the stuff, and the old stuff could get rid of regulation. But that sounds a little,
But, right, it sounds a little harsh, and it
Yeah, I don't like
accomplishes,
that.
but it accomplishes the same.
correct, yeah, that's why it's probably better received if you have it.
Yeah, because, yeah, I don't like that.
I'm just trying to think of other places where I think you do that for searches, for example.
And I think most of these make sense, can't talk bad about students, can't talk about, we can't make threats against anyone. Refrain from making public statements known to be false or without regard to true accuracy. Yeah, I think that's. If someone has an issue, I hope it's a true issue, but not something.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problem with any of
Yeah.
that, I just
No,
don't want to be
yeah.
taking away people's
I agree with you, that's why I'm going through it
opinions.
in my head and saying like, who are we infringing on and in what context, like having the examples and do we intend, is that the intention of this board? So,
You actually can't take it away, you don't have the power to take it
well,
away.
I know, but if we're,
You don't
well,
want,
but I don't want-
you don't want to
are we
document
infringing on
non-compliance
things
of
that,
the
yeah, would we expand it more, so. that's-
So, I mean, if you all, especially council, say this is fine, then it's fine with me. As I read it, that was the thought that came to mind. It seems like we're saying we don't want to hear from teachers about decisions we make.
For some teachers, that's true.
Yeah. And presumably there's another mechanism for them. We want to solicit the input of our experts. But there's another mechanism for them to get that input through the system.
So
It's stuff that's related to their job.
unfortunately, in every district I've worked in, I've had to discipline someone around this policy. Just because, you're right, there are other mechanisms to get it. And, you just have to be really careful. One of the things, as we talk about planning professional development for next year, there are several policies that staff are just not aware of, that we want to bring to their conscious level, so that they don't unknowingly, wind up getting in some sort of,
Yeah.
difficult situation because they unknowingly violated policy.
I was gonna do like a year policy summary, and we've used that before even with the PTO. Remember when we presented, or it could just be handed out to the PTO, also with that, so we
Right.
can culminate all from this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it fine?
So there
Yeah, I'll do a regulation.
Go to an AR.
Yeah.
All right.
Make it clear.
So this is like repeat first, repeat last.
And we don't have to, I know, I don't know.
Take it.
We just traditionally do the AR with the policy.
Yeah.
Reading.
We change it.
We're not making
We're not
changes.
making
Yeah.
My
The
only,
AR is not going to change anything. Are you comfortable going forward with second reading without AR?
What do you think, Mark? I don't really care.
it's fine.
Okay.
My only formatting comment on this one, by the way, is, and the bullets 6, 7, and 8 don't have the same spacing as 1 through 5.
Oh, okay. So we'll just bring an AR, but that's not, hopefully not gonna change anything.
Yeah, we can announce that.
Yeah, that's not gonna, so, okay.
Okay, so second reading.
Tom, I don't remember already, is there something that we need to talk about specifically that you have an issue with of the remaining policies?
well, you meant 322.
2, yeah, other than 322. That's next up.
It was just in case we, in case I'm not here, when you get to the 338 on sabbatical leaves and compensated professional
Right,
leave.
okay, got it.
Right now, says in the policy, a leave of absence, under authority, a leave of absence for compensated professional leave shall also operate as a leave of absence without pay from other school activities. We actually allow teachers on sabbatical, especially professional sabbatical, not medical, but professional studies sabbatical to continue extracurricular activities.
Okay. So we know that, so we can talk about that when we get there,
Yeah,
but that's what we,
yeah.
that's what we have to talk about when we're there. So,
And
okay.
301.1, we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, started that whole idea of employment of relatives, and looking to perhaps broaden
We
that.
broaden that, which is always, potentially broaden that. Okay, all right, that's, I just want to make sure we have those notes, so because I asked them before and I still couldn't remember, so. All right, so 322 then. So this is, again, this is a, yeah, you know what this policy is. So we we didn't have enough time to go through the AR at the last meeting.
I did go over it with the principals, and they do have much concern over the idea of monitoring the $25 minimum and the disclosure, and teacher disclosure, or staff disclosure of amounts in excess of $25.
And I would recommend too, because since a lot of like gifts are $25 exactly, that would be above $25 or something to that effect under the, and that's in the administrative regs.
Right, that's what,
Yeah, that's all in the AR.
So there-
In the policy is different.
Their concern is just about the administrative work of
the logistics of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, monitoring all that, and they're not going to police whether or not a gift is more than $25.
They just have to track disclosure. I mean, this doesn't, how does this?
I just feel like people are gonna go underground with it. I don't think it's enforceable. You know, if I'm a teacher and I get a $30 gift card to Starbucks, am I going to go to the principal and say, I got a $30 gift card?
Or you get a really nice bouquet of flowers.
Right.
I mean, like, you don't know how much necessarily that value was of that with, you know. I mean, it's funny, it's fun to talk about this, especially during Teacher Appreciation Week when teachers are actually receiving a decent amount of gifts.
Oh yeah, people are even getting gifts from me this week. I'll make sure they're
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is if to me, $25 seems like a fairly low limit for disclosure requirements. If we want to disclose something, you know, I think.
Well, the thing we discussed last month was we just wanted data.
Mhm.
And if we make the number $100 or whatever, some
Yeah.
relatively high number, then we didn't get any useful information.
Universally, K-12 principals were very strongly asking me to come forward and say that that whole procedure is a lot to ask based on all the other things they have to do.
It just doesn't seem like a lot to me. I mean, I understand the underground thing, but if, for stuff that is disclosed, teacher says, I received the following gifts this week in email, you just log that. I mean, it's done.
Well, and
I
then
mean,
who
it's-
logs it, right? So say they have, you know, they. I
Then
mean,
there'd be a formal log or transcribe or something, just, you have it.
Well, did they have any other ideas for how to make sure that parents weren't like,
bribing teachers.
well, yeah, enticing teachers to give to over to.
That's the part that I think that is hard to put a number to, because it says the whole purpose of the AR is to make sure that teachers aren't influenced.
Right.
And the judgment isn't influenced. Some teachers could be influenced, someone could be influenced by a $10 gift. So the whole idea of connecting a number with influence, I don't see a connection because anyone can be influenced by lots of things. So I don't know. And then the idea of determining whether you have to send it back. And principal, at the principal's discretion, we have to decide whether or not they're directed to return the gift or refuse the discount. So what's the threshold for then saying that bouquet of flowers looks like it's way more than 25 and we have to return them?
Only part of it.
Just here.
You keep the baby's breath.
Too many roses.
And this is, and the policy is really written for any employee. So, I mean, I can tell you right now, my
Yeah.
administrative assistants, I provided a larger
Right.
amount than $25.
I'm sorry, this isn't government, it covers from like parents, it wasn't government.
right now,
Any
you have no
sort.
rules.
Well, this is
Any
now,
sort
this
of
is gonna be
Somebody
something-
could legitimately give a teacher
Any
a
source.
$200 gift, and there is nothing you can do to stop it, other than to say, I guess under the policy, I guess you just have to.
Yeah, we should know.
But I guess my question, if you're gonna have a policy that says, employees may not accept a gift or discount that creates a conflict of interest, how will you ever enforce it?
And principals.
Because nobody could ever say. So you're basically saying, we're gonna pass this policy that we have absolutely no intention of giving anybody any guidelines on how to enforce. So it'll be completely up to you, all the supervisors, school district, how they each enforce that one sentence policy. But you gotta decide whether this is something you care about or not.
Well, I think we gotta care about it just before it becomes a problem. You know? Somebody gives some
Well, I mean,
card and then we.
well, and that's to me, is the policy that's in there currently, it's for that situation. It's not for trying to find out if people are getting $250 gift cards and stuff like that. It's for when we have a situation where something comes up and it says, hey, they did this and it's not right. We have a policy that they violated, and then we have something to hang our hat on in a disciplinary hearing. And that's my take on it. But, I mean, I'm not,
Has it ever happened? I mean, since I've been here, has it ever happened?
How would you know?
I-
You're not collecting.
Well, I mean,
You
it's,
haven't
well,
made a rule.
we have.
the thing is, some of it, there be
Something
rumors,
really-
like, there's gonna,
When I
you
was
know,
principal
we
at
find out about
Maple,
half of the
we
stuff.
had a parent make a very sizable donation to a teacher, and right, so the teacher came to me and said, I feel uncomfortable with this. So we worked it out, and instead the parent made a donation to the classroom library.
Like 10 years ago?
Because they told you. And you only
Right.
know because they told you.
Right.
Right.
If somebody's going to be influenced by a gift, they're the person that's not
Not
going
going
to
to.
tell you.
Right.
Gee, it happens at the university level, doesn't it?
I hear it.
You never know.
Yeah, it's a topic right now, I suppose.
But you can pass the policy without a regulation. Because the policy just says, it makes it take a you don't want to take this. You don't need a regulation to pass it. Policy.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
people will
Right.
correctly point out that they need guidance on this.
No, I mean,
I don't think we want it.
again, I don't mind necessarily having some data, but I don't think a $25 threshold is the point that we want our building administration to have to be collecting data at. Are we getting bigger gifts than that frequently? Right. I don't know. I mean, or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if that's true draconian, then, you know, too much work, then I feel like we have to go to no gifts.
I don't know that it's too much work. I think here's the disconnect in my mind. We give our teachers wide berth here, wider berth than anywhere else I've ever been, which can be a good thing. But now we want them to record $25 gifts. We've been working with our principals to be instructional leaders. I just feel like there is no real way to, like, I'm putting my principal hat on as principal of a building. I don't know how I would manage, it's not about the amount of work, but it's about what's being asked.
Yeah, because what do we do with that data? We have it, and now what?
Because
Just having
then,
it just
then
busy
a year or
work?
two later, we can look and say, a reasonable threshold is X, because that, we got here because we were debating what a reasonable threshold was.
You still can't measure the amount of influence it may have on a particular person, though.
That's true, it's a proxy for influence and it's imperfect.
Exactly.
It's
But-
imperfect, but most people get influenced by money.
Well, the money is the thing that's in the law about influence.
Right. Or big flashy gifts. I mean, there might be some teachers out there that are influenced by the $10 Starbucks gift card, but, you know, there's probably a lot more teachers that are out there that would be influenced by the $1,000 gift card somewhere, you know? I think that's the difference.
Vacation home.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm. What are we doing?
Well, is there any reason not to do a second reading on the policy?
I'm fine with second reading policy. Policy says what I wanted to say, so of course I'm fine for it. But
I mean, Art, you've been around the district for a long time. Do you ever recall this being an issue? I'm genuinely asking, I'm not trying to ask a point of view.
No.
Tom, other than that instance at People One?
No, I think the only time it really comes up is when I'm talking with new teachers, and it's sort of like, in a way, it sort of would help to have a defined amount, because that's usually the question they ask, because they want to do the right thing. But other than that, no, except for the example that I gave.
The only reason not to do a second reading on the policy as it's written is that it says we'll develop an accompanying AR. That, and it doesn't say that we'll define a value anymore at least, but.
I mean, full disclosure, I would love just a no gifts policy because I think that's the cleanest thing. You'd never, ever be able to enforce that because you can't tell parents and guardians and families not to buy something for teachers, bus drivers, what have you.
And that puts them in a
It-
worse.
it
I
does.
can't take it, you
It
have to
does.
take it
Yeah.
back,
Right.
kindergartner, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't take that.
Yes, thank you for that beautiful drawing. You must take it back, 5-year-old, no.
You could just take out the prohibited gifts part of the AR. You would just have the definitions of what a gift is and what a discount is.
And the disclosure.
Yeah, correct. You just wipe out you just take out the
Prohibited gifts and disclosure of gifts, and right, wipe out those two whole sections, and you just have definitions and consequences.
Yeah, and then consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how you keep only definitions and consequences.
So take out those three.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Take out those two.
Still is a great topic to bring up to the PTA leadership.
Amy and I have that on our list to talk about.
I mean, it's
You know, yeah.
get their perspective.
There used to be, because I can find a definition for discount, I don't have to, I don't know what it says about, oh, here we go.
listen.
Discount, I received from any source, yeah, so that was crossed out, should be uncrossed out.
Yeah.
This discount one,
Yeah, you restore that. I can do this if you want. And so,
So we don't need, so this, if we did it that way, we're just basically deleting these two sections. The whole notion of conflict of interest in the AR is on its own policy. But the words conflict of interest basically don't appear anymore in the AR.
you would, it would just basically say,
It no longer says,
you may not accept a gift if it constitutes great conflict of interest. We define what gift and discount are, and we say what will happen if you violate the rule of the policy that says you accept a gift and that is.
I don't have an issue with keeping the prohibited gifts section. Do we have an issue with that? We're just saying you can't prohibit, you can't, I mean, that's what we're, it's essentially saying the same thing.
I'm sorry, what did you say, sir?
Yeah, I was just saying, I mean, we could, it's essentially taking out the disclosure paragraph,
It's prohibited.
but we could, I mean, I don't see, we could keep the prohibited gifts section.
Oh, sure, you're right.
that would be cleaner.
Okay. yeah,
so
that's-
take this whole section out.
We're cutting out the disclosure gifts, yep, and then we're leaving in the prohibited gifts sentence, the beginning sentence. Okay.
Okay.
I think at the purpose of the meeting, we should have a little bit of a discussion for the rest of the board to explain how
Yep.
they mandate
Yep.
this spot.
I agree. All right.
It would be, with this reality. Makes it difficult. It's almost like it's bad for the person who doesn't give that gift. That's the advantage of no gifts.
All right, so, we're done with our old business then. So the second meeting is approval of those. And then the new policies that we have for consideration.
Why don't we jump to 3, Tom, it's now 3:30.
Yeah, I probably need to.
Yeah. Maybe we can circle back to with Tom on the ARs for 364 and 360-5. I had info regarding the coaching and the tutoring. We'll get to that.
I have lots to say about the coaching.
Great, okay, good. So let's go with 360. This is fun.
Are we
You
gonna
think,
go
you
to
think
coaching?
this were bad? Wait for this.
I know.
Tutor.
We just started.
My connection is
I made the changes to the policy. You asked if the policy include activity sponsors. You also asked that I look at the collective bargaining agreement, there's nothing in there that proposes an impediment to this policy. So you asked to change to prohibition, change it from being prohibited to just notification, which I've done, and I've added performance activities. It's a little tricky.
Where's the notification?
It says that employees are required to refrain from entering into things that would be a conflict. And then we talk about how we, for coaches and activity sponsors, they have to notify. They don't, it doesn't say you can't do something, it just says if you're doing it, it tells.
That's where I start to,
Yeah, let's-
I'm trying to find that.
it's on page 2 of 4. The bottom of page 1, going to page 2.
We're looking at the electronic.
So it seems to me that we allow coaches or sponsors to notify us if they're going to do it. But we don't treat teachers the same way. And I'm thinking specifically of instances where we have a unique subject. Latin, physics,
Reading with a reading specialist.
reading with a reading specialist,
Right.
a Wilson certified teacher. I feel like in general, no, we don't want teachers to be tutoring their own kids. But I do think there are some instances where
There's a good reason for that.
there's a good reason to do it.
There's a disclosure form attachment for every one of these. And again, that goes back to the principal to,
So, is it disclosure, I mean, what do you want to do? Steve? I mean, like, there's a disclosure board, I mean, I think that in the teacher situation, and I'm not saying that we treat them differently, like, if we would allow teachers to do that, that would be a case-by-case basis that would have to be signed off by you.
Yeah, I think we have to be either the chief academic officer. or-
Right, someone, central office admin. So, because that's a very unique situation that it would have to prove this is really the right pairing of this and this, and we need some type of monitoring or understanding this is going on. So if we want to treat coaches the same way, it would be the same thing with saying, hey, I want to coach this sport and I want to coach the club and to sign off on it. I mean, that would be
Right.
equal footing. Otherwise, because I mean, I don't love because we have the prohibition right now with the teachers and the tutoring and stuff like that, I don't think a notification's enough. I think that that's something we really need to monitor, and if we want to treat them similarly, then notification's not enough for the coaches either.
Right.
Okay. Is that where you want to go with that?
Yeah, I do, and I think in some cases, a teacher might say, well, I'm the only person that could possibly tutor this student, but going through that process, we could say, well, actually, there are other.
Right, we might have other options
Yeah.
versus,
It could be retired faculty that can.
right, we might know something more than that teacher does in that situation.
I'm just thinking the very unique sort of, if someone needs tutoring in algebra, no, your algebra teacher can't tutor.
Right. But if there's a specific thing, especially for kids with, differing needs and stuff like that, there could be a situation where this is the only pairing that's really gonna work, And if that's the case, that would be something that you could, or
Yeah.
administration
Wait.
would say.
I mean, in special circumstances, you can waive policies.
Yeah, we could, but I love that, I mean, I
I'd rather have a
Form
process.
would be
the
better.
I'd
same
rather have
process in
a
both. yeah.
Process.
Yeah.
So what would you propose with this language saying for bullet 6?
I assume that's what you're talking about here.
So for bullet 6 and for bullet 7, there would be a notification and approval process
Yes,
for
So
both.
bullet 6 already says without prior notification to and approval of.
right, because like going into this, our new superintendent didn't know that the same person that coaches swimming and diving is the same as the club coach. I mean, like, we have maybe some of that institutional knowledge,
This
right?
isn't the right version. There's an up-to-date version of this.
Which one was 360?
360.
I just replaced them this morning from Ed's email.
Is the paper version correct?
They should be, he's emailed yesterday.
Well, I'm looking
And I
at the
released it this
draft, I'm
morning.
looking at the draft policy that's on the website. Is it, well, yeah, that's not what we have here in front of us now.
Oh,
That's not in the packet, that's not what's in the packet.
okay. So
This
maybe
doesn't, I mean, this doesn't say anything about activity sponsors, this is a version from.
previous version in the packet.
No, this has, well, we
Says
have.
that.
I printed it from this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on.
That's all right.
Oh, sorry.
So, and that's the thing, if we need to have that notification and approval process with our coaches, I think that's really important to have that we haven't had before.
But and that's in there.
Right, and so the thing is having, mirroring that same language, to have a notification approval process for to allow tutoring if we need to do that.
All right, so after the first sentence in 7, it should just simply say without approval of the superintendent or designate.
So can I just, I feel like it should go the other way. I feel like we should never allow this. So Steve, what I think I heard you say was that in 6, we allow this with notification to an approval. And in fairness, we should do the same thing. We shouldn't treat coaches and sponsors as other teachers.
Yep.
Full disclosure, last time I was both the other way, but the comment was made that would ruffle some feathers and not to do it in an election year.
Well, I don't,
It
Yeah.
just never feels okay to me to have a teacher tutoring their own students,
well, I think what,
period.
The example that the principal gave was an example like a student needs Wilson, a reading instruction, and it comes from the reading specialist. So the way this is written, it would be done by a reading specialist in the district, just not of that school, which is currently, that would be an exception.
That's not their own student, that's,
It is.
that doesn't.
They're the reading teacher for that, the reading specialist for that building. And they become now,
And didn't you just say it could come from a reading specialist in another school?
that's what we could do under this new,
Yeah,
this is written
I'm okay
right
with
now. They're in, it would be the reading specialist of the school. That was an example that was given.
That is happening?
Yeah.
You see, I just think that's not okay.
well, I think the thing is, if you want the bright line rule, I mean, Mark, the bright line rule of saying, okay, so no teachers can supervise their kids, then the idea is to make that consistent with our coaches, then none of the coaches can do club sports. I mean, that's the consistency. And is that the decision we want to make? I mean, that's going to hurt our swimming and diving program, I would think. I think that might have consequences through all of our athletic and other, competitions and stuff like that. And I don't think that's, is that what we want to do? Or we have,
That sounds very difficult to regulate. Some teacher works at a summer camp, and, so let's say they're baseball coach, I'm making this up, I don't know if this is the right camp or not. They're a baseball coach, they go work at a summer camp and coach baseball at that camp, and one of the campers happens to be one of our students. We can't impose a regulation on the camp saying you can't have that parent.
coach, then they can't, that's very different from like the coaching and teaching. That teacher then couldn't coach at our school. That's what we would be saying. If you're going to be doing those private events where you're doing clubs and stuff like that, fine, you can do that, but you're not going to be a coach in our district. That's what would be the equal rule. And I don't think that's what we want to do. I think we're in a small community, right? We're not saying that we want to have, we want to, I mean, unless that's what we want to do. I mean, if that's what we want to do, that will definitely change things.
Significantly
The
reduce
culture.
the pool of candidates that you can have doing
Right.
sports.
To doing both.
Yeah,
So
because they do
then
other
I
sports.
might be saying, I don't know that there needs to be equity between teachers and coaches in this particular regulation.
And I think that's the concern, is that we should have, I
Because
mean, then that's the concern, or
I
if
just think
that's
it's
the
never,
desire.
yeah, I believe it's never okay for a teacher to tutor their own kids. That's where I'm starting from. And I don't want to introduce all those problems either, and so if that equity statement is the thing that's getting in the way of that, then.
But if
I
I'm,
think it's the
if I'm a
equity.
coach of a particular sport, let me pick a sport that we don't have.
Rugby.
Rugby,
Okay.
right? And so I also coach a club team. I work that kid in a club team so that they're better on the,
Yeah, on my high school
And for the
team.
students who don't participate in
Hey,
the club
right.
team,
Right.
that will impact their eligibility in the school team.
Right.
It does.
It does.
This is just about to get.
And they give.
I mean, the thing is,
kids
those
like
are big.
You'd
No,
like-
yeah. I mean, that's a big change, if we wanna say that, if we wanna say we don't want our coaches to be coaching both club sports that can have any of our kids, I mean, that's a really big change. And I'm not saying we can't do that, and,
Because the disclosure doesn't solve the conflict of interest.
It doesn't, but it provides a oversight over the conflict of interest. For example, and even with this, with Steve's point about, you can't tutor your kid unless I sign off on it. Delete, okay, well now you've got, well, why are you doing this? Well, I'm the only Stevenson reading method, I don't know if that is a reading method. Teacher in the whole district, and this kid needs Stevenson. Okay, but you're on the kid's IEP team too, right? Okay, well, how do we make sure that you're not just, prompting this to make sure, this is influencing your, and then they give you satisfactory answers, and Steve says, okay, well, it's okay to do it under these circumstances, and here's what we need to watch for, and I'm gonna make sure the IEP team chair knows that you're doing this, so that's what ideally would happen in the case of, you can only do it if you've got approval.
I think the IEP thing is, that's another dimension. I
it's
hate,
just in this example.
yeah.
Well, but I think when Michelle talks about your one-offs, where
Right.
you're only gonna have one person who does one thing that a
Right.
kid needs, 9 times out of.
Well, then
Then
aren't we sort of obligated to provide that? I mean, if the kid needs it and it's an IEP thing,
Well, that's
We're
what
not- right.
you're supposed to provide. They're not
We are,
supposed
there
to
are
be
times when parents.
selling
say,
their
"Well,
services.
well,
Exactly.
If somebody needs it, it's like, well, then we should be giving
Then
it to you,
again-
this is why we shouldn't be having them pay you over the summer.
No, it's
exactly,
parents
and then I'm
wouldn't
saying
be
they should never be tutoring their own kids, that fits with that. We should, we don't need an approval process for that in the IEP situation.
We need an oversight at least.
Well, I guess the thing is, what we're talking about is currently the policy has been, you can't tutor your own kids, right, your own students.
Yeah.
And so we're carving out an exception for those, which should be extremely rare situations where that is the only teacher, as the administration believes this is the only teacher that can provide this for this kid. I mean, like, it shouldn't come up very often.
The big change
I don't
is gonna
think-
be that they can't use their email, they can't use the premises, those will be
Mhm.
more notable changes that will
I-
impact the
Right.
folks.
Yeah.
I can't back off on teachers should never be tutoring their own kids. I'm just really uncomfortable with that.
So I guess for me, I would rather have the administration be able to use their judgment than us being, use our judgment and just making that blanket statement.
Do you want to, maybe Steve, would you be okay if the school superintendent does it under extraordinary circumstances?
yeah, I mean, I think that would, I think that's what we're talking about.
Right.
That would help a little bit and just.
I mean, but I agree, your point is, do we want equity in this situation? Right? I think that's really the issue, is that right now we treat these, we're treating them separately. We're treating our coaches differently than we're treating our teachers. Is that what we want to do? If that's not what we want to do, then this is one of the options.
I'm willing to treat them differently than not have to allow teachers to. But if I'm a minority, I'm a minority. But
mean, I'm gonna back the admin in this, so whatever the administration thinks is the right method is what I'm gonna support, so.
Okay, so we're coming up with teachers for either individually or in groups without notification to and approval of the superintendent or designee under extraordinary circumstances.
I would go with that, too.
Hmm?
That works.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going through all
Options.
the possible things that kids might need tutoring here. My hope would be if Michelle comes to me and says, I'm gonna tutor the kid that I have in a reading group because I am Wilson, I'm Wilson certified. My hope is that we could use this to say, actually, we have 2 other people in the district that are Wilson certified.
But
Yeah.
they don't want to,
They don't want to require that, that's possible.
right? I mean, it's
That's right.
possible.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
a lot of people don't want it to.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They want to be done to
That's
kids.
true.
This is with the exception of
To say, without prior application.
home instruction in the home.
Right,
Then
right, two.
we
And then
do
you're.
have the teacher.
But you know, I'm
Also
also
got
got
tutoring for private fee,
That's the difference.
sorry.
no.
I mean, in the absence of providing a list, we're not using the district emails or any of those things. This is kind of like the gifts in that unless a teacher tells you, that tutoring may be occurring, you would never know.
It could be happening all the time.
Right.
Right.
I don't think it does.
No,
I don't think it
usually serves.
I think to make it parallel is the opposite.
teaches coaching.
Do we have an idea how many coaches
Teaches
do
coaching.
this?
Parallel.
No,
Coaches
tutoring.
got
Yeah,
the
so I mean-
private and the.
It's gonna be a lot more than
Stuff.
teachers, because coaches is not as full-time a job, it's supplemental.
Right, it's not like a
I
full.
can find out.
I think the biggest issue is, like I said, they can't do it at the school, they can't use their emails, they can't have the to-do list. There's ways of advertising that they even are interested, they're gonna have to do that outside of school.
And
But I'm with you, I think inconsistency between that and sports, I don't know how you,
It's not just sports and activities, I mean, you know,
Right.
same thing about just one.
Exactly.
There's no legal problem, but I mean, you have an obligation.
No, it's
You have an
a,
obligation to provide a free, appropriate public education to your students. You don't have an obligation to provide conflicts-free sports rostering decisions. That's something you'd like to have, but this is where this could arguably impact the student adversely is with respect to making sure they get an educational program. Because you now have somebody who's a conflict of interest in having to pay for something that arguably we should be giving them free. So there is an easy to make a legal decision.
right.
But that's a pretty, considering what you have in place now, that's a pretty strong safeguard. Certainly compared to what you have now.
would you, Dr. Knight, would you like that same type of statement with the sports? Prior to
Extraordinary
education and
circumstances.
approval?
It's there.
It's
No, I'm
that
saying for
extraordinary
The
circumstances.
sports, this is the teachers, this is.
Yeah, right, the line above has it, it's for sports.
Okay.
Well, but now, if you want to treat them truly equally, do we add the extraordinary
Yeah, that's
circumstances
what
line
I was
for
looking
the
for.
coaches?
Oh, this says principal or designate. Do you want it to be the same one for this one, principal or designate?
No, this needs to be
I
superintendent.
think so,
That needs to be superintendent.
So they're both,
on both.
or is it principal?
Well, I mean, honestly, at the last meeting we talked, and I believe it was the swimming program.
Yeah, this
That was the
one,
focus
yeah.
of our discussion.
Yeah, there's other ones here.
I'm sure there's other ones, that's
Right,
just
but
one.
I know, I just.
Yeah.
But
I
swimming
mean,
is the main.
Right.
So number 6 would be principal or designated, what, athletic director or superintendent?
Well, we do have other coaches that, do clinics and,
Mhm. Yeah, I'm guessing football,
football, baseball.
baseball, yeah.
And it's like anything back in the day, if you didn't participate in the clinics, the chances there was a bias. And who's selected for the team who plays?
I mean, I think this, how it currently is good or acceptable.
Number 6 has to just change, so without the approval of principal.
Yeah.
So change to what?
It says,
To what, superintendent?
Superintendent, right? Same.
Separate.
well, the reason why it's principal instead of superintendent is because there's potential for quite a few of these. But it's up to you.
Well, superintendent can designate the building principals if he,
That's true.
I mean, I think either leave it at 6 or if you want to add extraordinary circumstances to 6 and say, listen, we're not going to have our coaches coach both the club and sports unless we really need them to. Or not, I don't.
But the thing is, we don't need them to, we're trying, I thought the point was we're trying not to stop coaches.
They end up.
I know, I mean, it's, yeah.
Every time they can't coach.
So your open question is whether you're putting under extraordinary circumstances in 6 or should it be away this? Or you want to take it out of 7?
So now the next would be smaller, if it is like it was. So, you know, the only difference is the under extraordinary circumstances now.
Well,
And I think that under extraordinary circumstances does explain the difference of, we're providing an education and that's our actual real job, right? Is that, that's what the school should be doing and we should not, and typically, you know, we don't want to be in this situation where we should be providing it for free and now it looks like we're making them pay for stuff.
okay, but and this is what I thought you wanted.
Yes,
Not putting it in 6
right,
will make the approval kind of routine.
right.
Because
So
they
what do we
won't,
wanna
because
do?
they, well,
I
they
know.
won't feel like they need to look for extraordinary circumstances.
Right.
So, which is, I thought, what you wanted. I thought
Right.
that's where you came out last time.
That's where we come out last time, yes, I agree. So it doesn't
So you're
say,
okay the way it is. That's the outcome you'll get, which I thought was what you wanted. Not Mark, but.
right,
Yeah, well, just refining what I heard, there was discomfort with the difference between 6 and 7. There's still a difference between 6 and 7, it's a much smaller
it's a
difference.
less of a difference.
And it's what education based.
It's sooner, sooner.
Right.
And we'll be.
Art, do you have an opinion on it?
In one month.
Hmm?
Do you have an opinion on it?
It's just our past culture, I don't know.
I know.
I would like to know how other districts handle it.
I can tell you in other districts, that I worked in,
Yeah,
it was no to teachers tutoring their own kids and no to coaches.
ever doing club.
Yeah, I mean, but if that's going to create, you know, a ripple, but then I think we spend, and you know, I work in sports, we spend way too much time talking about athletics and not nearly enough time talking about education.
Where are we? This is Echo, right?
Yeah, this is policy.
This is policy, yeah.
Okay, so-
So, I mean, like I said, I'm either,
Is this a
Just gonna make that
substantial change?
change for now.
I'm interested right now to find out, to really have a better idea of what our coaches are doing. How many like, if our coach, I mean, because if we have this approval and notification process, they're gonna have to notify us now of all the different clinics and all this stuff. So now we're gonna know about how many separate contacts they're having with our kids. And I think we're gonna have some actual data now. We're gonna have some information and stuff that we don't know right now. I mean, like, right now, it's like, I know about swimming, like, and I assume some of these other sports, but we don't actually know how much. And it's one thing if our coaches are like, that's their job, right? If they're just coaching, whether our coaches are also teachers. They're teaching, they're coaching, and they're doing club sports. I mean, that's a whole different, I think, ballgame. And so I think that's, I don't know, I'm fine with leaving it as this right now, how we have it. And when we should be getting information now from our coaches, at least they're gonna be forced to disclose it. And if they don't, then that's a whole different ballgame. But, and what we're talking about contact-wise.
AR 360-4, we go into Eric's handbook, in essence, so that next year, we're filling this out.
Yeah.
And have the attachment.
So, and well, that's the question, is it even maybe this summer, right? Because like there's clinics and stuff all summer long, and some of these sports are year round, or probably all of them at this point. So, anyway, I mean, I guess the first step is do we, I guess I don't mind collecting data right now for this. and requiring the notification and approval. And then if we see this is just, it's a major concern when we see all this, then we can move to change it down the road.
Would this be going to second reading or first reading?
This is first, we didn't cover this in our meeting.
This is for.
Yeah, we didn't cover this at the last legislative meeting.
This is where you landed last month. You wanted.
Right,
before
get more-
Before you made a
yeah.
sweeping prohibition with the athletics, you wanted to see how big the issue was.
Mhm.
And that's what this does, so that's, but it doesn't sound like you need any more data to know about what you want to do for teachers. You want to make it restricted, irrespective of what you're actually going to run right now with your, so, this makes sense. From that point, based on where you were last month.
Okay.
So do we have to send it through to a repeat? Or
So this
first
will be
reading,
first
or we
reading.
can just go back to committee with that? Or we
Well,
ready
no,
for
well,
first
I
reading?
think we're ready for first reading on the policy. Agreed?
Yeah, and I think the most severe example of this is the swimming coaches. And I don't know really how.
Right, I'm not picking on swimming.
No, but I'm saying,
just
no, my
bringing
point is
that
that's the
Yeah, I
most
agree.
severe.
That's a severe
But-
consequence.
They're like basketball, they do all these summer
Basketball,
leagues.
baseball, yeah.
And kids get assigned to different teams, and these guys coach those, or ladies coach
Yeah.
those teams. And they could end up with a kid, you know, one of the high school kids on their summer program. So what do we say in a case like that? They just, you know, what happens to them? They can't do those summer.
Well,
leagues?
they would have to tell the league that they can't coach
Okay.
our Upper Dublin kids or whatever. I mean, and then that goes to the question, how do other schools handle this?
Right,
I mean, right, like,
but,
you know, Wissahickon, how does Wissahickon handle this situation?
Vernon TV recently abolished letting their coaches do this. But I think you're smart to want to know what you're doing before you do it. This will have a tidal wave, you know, could have a tidal wave against you. So just see what you're doing. Before you prohibit something, know the extent to which you're going to be prohibiting things. You may still do it. You may still decide it's the right thing to do, but at least you'll know what you're doing. With the teaching, with the tutoring, you don't have to worry about that. You're not going to get 10 people coming to a school board meeting, you know, saying, and you're not letting me teach a kid that I teach, or tutor a kid for free that I teach. You're not going to get that.
I want to be very clear, I don't believe we should prohibit. If we're going to prohibit, we should prohibit both.
Yeah.
Given that we have the extraordinary circumstance for our staff, I'm very comfortable with having notification from coaches. But we should know, as a point of reference, when these kids are being coached outside of their regular season.
okay, yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, this is not, I don't want it to be spun by people that might be watching this. This is Steve Yanni taking on sports. It's not my, it's not my intent.
No, but I think it's really important that we do know, and that's the thing, is I think some of this is like, we just know because we know in the community, but like, you know, you're relatively new still, and like, you wouldn't necessarily know this coach also coaches this and this and this, and then we all know this because our kids went through this or something like that. So I think it's important that, I mean, I'm really glad that we're having a notification and approval process for the coaching. I think that's really important. So we'll be able to make some decisions down the road, or make the decision that we're okay with what we currently have. All right.
That was some details now.
I know.
360-4, that's the only one that changed. 360-4. And I think based on the conversation we've had, I think we are probably okay with most of the changes that we just made. Yeah, the only change that I actually made was, changed it from prohibition to notification, and changed it, I added performance activity sponsors. So, it's all been changed to prior notification to approval of principals, so I guess now it's going to be,
Yeah,
do you want to leave it in, well,
Designee.
Steve, do you want to leave it as for the red? Do you want the principal to be your designee? Or do you want to continue this to say superintendent?
What is it?
We're looking at dashboard.
Mhm.
Correct.
So for coaching,
For coaching, I think it should be the athletic director.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
Is that
Isn't
under
that his job?
expectations?
Okay. That seems like it.
The first paragraph
Mm,
under
policy.
expectations and limitations.
Do you want to change that back in the
Well,
policy?
I think,
Yeah, in the policy.
yeah,
well,
Okay.
maybe the athletic director for coaches and you for performance
Academic.
activities.
Yeah. Academic officer or chief academic officer, or that would be the equivalent, not really equivalent, but
but I really think that I'm going to be changing the scope of the athletic director's position to include activities as well.
Okay, so they would be, so if somebody wants to,
Okay.
the theater person, director wants to privately train somebody in the summer for a fee, it'll be the athletic director.
Huh,
Okay.
so the theater director does a summer camp.
Like an activities director.
Forgot about that one. She used to do it.
Okay, and I'll just go through and make sure that it's cleaned up that way. You know, that takes care of, that should take care of 4 items for any other concerns, and then I have to look at 5, because we're not,
And then 5
we're
for
not
us.
longer prohibiting it, except in extraordinary circumstances.
Dare I say we're going to get through this whole package today?
No,
No.
we're not. No way, we still have,
You can never say that.
no way. All right. So policy 360 is a first read. The rest of the ARs, all this stuff obviously is coming back in the June meeting as well.
And I'll fix- I'll-
So we're gonna have to fix 360-4 and 360-5.
I'll just form them to whatever you agree to.
Great.
So you can move on to the
So
300.
back to
30.
Yeah,
Or the regs, or the regs.
Yes.
for the regs, yeah,
For the
for
regs.
the, that's the first reading for the policy. Okay. So then that moves us to 338, which is the sabbatical leaves and other compensated professional leaves.
Nothing changes here, this is simply a consolidation of the two, of the sabbatical leave, restoration of health and sabbatical leave, well, actually, all 3.
So-
Restoration of health, professional development leaves, and classroom occupational leaves.
So the comment that Tom had was that currently when someone's on a sabbatical leave for like educational purposes, not when they're off sabbatical leave for medical or something like that, we allow those teachers to continue coaching or doing other extracurricular activities.
So he just wanted to change it to a leave of absence, no, a sabbatical leave for restoration of health shall also operate as leave of absence without pay from all other school activities.
So that's the question, is that, do we want to continue that practice? If that's our current practice, if we're good with that, then that's the change we need to make in this policy.
I don't think the intent is to change current practice here, so.
I would like to. I think if someone's taking time off from work to do, study, I don't think that we should be allowing them to coach or sponsor an activity.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open for discussion, but I don't think that's.
So that's an extraordinary.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Is that a real example from another district?
Who's willing to do it? I mean, yeah.
I can't, I mean, I don't know the background, and, yeah. That's what I think we can always make.
The district go both ways with this.
Yeah, I mean,
That's fine.
I'm not married to it. It's not as big of an issue for me as the last policy.
I really don't have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I don't either, it's like, okay, I mean,
Why?
yeah.
Well, if someone's going to take time off to, say, pursue a degree, and they can't be here to teach kids, then why should we allow them to coach or sponsor an activity? Because the whole
Yeah.
point
Purpose of it, yeah.
of a sabbatical is to not have.
Right, we're holding our
Or
job, we're
focus.
incurring costs effectively.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're paying them half, we're paying half plus their benefits. Well, they're half their salary plus their benefits while they're on sabbatical.
Ken, remind me, because this comes up every year. When someone goes out on sabbatical for restoration of health, when they come back, they have to go back to their same position. by school code, correct?
Correct.
If someone goes on a professional development leave, does school code also say they have to come back to their exact position?
Correct. But that doesn't include readers.
Right.
That doesn't include readers.
No, but that piece has always bothered me, and we can't change that. But if someone goes out, then we have to bring them back into that same, I get it for restoration of health, because you can't choose when to be out, but, you know, sometimes holding a position for someone that's taken, you know, an education.
Purpose.
And it's about the restoration of health,
Yeah,
they're not gonna come back and do,
No.
probably 38, yeah.
See, let's say FBLA, teacher goes out on sabbatical in July or something, and there's summer event, nationals, that, you know, would, and she would be the only one who would do that, because she is the FBLA, so is that an extraordinary situation, or just, I'm just thinking of the.
Yeah, no, I think with this, if you need to take a leave from your job for professional development for health, then,
Take a leave.
yeah,
take a leave.
Take a leave.
yeah.
So, if, in that case, if somebody is both a teacher and a coach or something, let's say, and they take a leave, and while they're gone, we presumably have to not only hire a replacement teacher, but a replacement coach. When they come back, we don't have, the replacement coach can continue to be the coach, right?
Yeah. Extra duty assignments are 1 year.
So we're not incurring additional cost in that case. We're only incurring additional cost on the teaching duty.
Well,
Right, if they could pay one person or the other, they're not getting
Yeah.
half their pay for their coaching activity.
yeah, but you may not be, I mean, depending on who you replace the teacher with while they're on sabbatical, how many years, whether they're in a setup schedule, you may or may not be.
Oh,
Additional cost.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to spin this into dollars, but it may not really work that way.
Now you can actually save money when somebody goes on sabbatical,
Yeah.
in theory.
We actually did this year over at Maple Glen, because we had to go down a section for a year. Someone was out on sabbatical, so we just used that as.
Does it, the value to the district when, for continuity, like, isn't there some value to the district if the teacher slash coach goes out on leave and continues to be the coach? We have some continuity there, we have continuity when they come back. Isn't that all good?
I mean, listen, you're kind of talking to the wrong person, because I did my dissertation while working a full-time job. So, you know, I could also say there's continuity when teachers don't take this isn't a hill I'm gonna die, you know what I mean?
I'm just trying to think through
Yeah.
all sides of this.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you know, sometimes it is difficult to find coaches, I'm not gonna, you know, say differently, but
I feel like if we're going to change current practice, we should have a good reason to do so, and I just want to think through the ramifications.
well, why don't we leave it as it is, and over the next year, we can have HR track, if people are out on sabbatical, are they coming back to, or are they coming in to coach, or sponsor an activity?
Okay.
Well, right, it's got a person.
Yeah, it's better, yeah.
So we're not leaving it the way it is currently, we're changing.
Yeah.
Changing
Current
to
practice, yeah.
sabbatical leave of the restoration of no cell operate.
Yeah.
You get that?
Right.
Or-
I agree.
So. Oh, that's the AR.
I think petition on
Oh,
those.
that's right.
To get that.
Oh, 338
And then the school
policy.
goes,
Yeah, 338.
Professional
There's that
development.
sentence. Go down.
Uh,
I saw Is that the sentence?
It's been,
Should be in the sabbatical leave and restoration of health,
Or,
right?
well, what Ken suggested
Or what's
was
Ken suggesting?
just change compensated professional leave to a leave of absence for restoration of health.
Yeah.
Shall eliminate.
Okay.
But either way.
Yeah, that works, that's fine. It doesn't matter.
correct. So it should, no, it's a leave, it's a sabbatical leave, or start, pick up, yeah, sabbatical leave for restoration of health.
Let's really change practice. If you go on sabbatical, you have to come back. You have to.
Even if you weren't coaching, you would
Yeah.
become a coach.
You're gonna coach your kids. You're gonna tutor them in there.
When you get flowers underneath.
That's not 125. This is a rough agenda. This one's.
Does that sound good? Does that look good now? That sentence?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. All right, are there other changes to 338?
That's all.
Now, the rest of it's pretty.
I mean, it's pretty short, so yeah, all right. All right, so with that, that'll be a first read.
And the AR, so much of it comes right from school code.
Yeah, it's kind of.
By design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not meant as a negative, it means that we are unable to.
Somebody here next time, we don't know about the school code.
I have a slight question. So AR 339, is there a policy change to go with that?
They're,
We're just changing the AR.
we're just
we're adding
changing
AR and-
that one to a different number, I think, just because it's,
Do we have a P 339?
no, we don't have it.
So is it,
What?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna get in next.
Yeah, we're just putting it in there, but I don't like having ARs for policies that don't exist.
Where's this?
I don't know why you
there's
need
an
to.
AR 339 for uncompensated leave.
I don't know why you
Yeah, we
want to
need
do
to,
that for.
That's, is that the classroom occupational?
Uncompensated leave, there is a
Child.
policy of 2003.
There is.
Child care and restoration of health, elected public office, and a breakfast.
Oh, that's just.
But there was no AR. Just the
338.
policy, no AR.
So I mean,
Four,
it reads as-
338 for
it's
them.
all new AR, is it, and so there's no policy change to go with
We're,
the new AR?
it was it was just, it was superseded, it went like into 338, I believe. So then 339 should be 338-4.
There was there must have been a reason though, because we knew that we were
Yeah.
buying
well,
all of
I
them,
guess that's
and
what I
still
was-
wanted it to be a 339. I don't know why.
339 is uncompensated leaves.
Oh,
Not
right.
compensated leave.
Yeah.
The other ones
Oh,
are
right, that's
compensated.
why
Compensated leaves there.
So there should be a,
So why was it,
I thought there was a policy.
we have, it says
2005.
copy of got superseded.
Um,
I don't understand.
It's written in 2003.
Yeah, so I just did what Brooke did, and I didn't say.
No, I don't.
Yeah, we
There's a 439.
Yeah. No, and we do have a 339 currently, and in our drafts, there is a 339 copy. It just didn't get.
Okay, but there's currently a 339 uncompensated leave policy.
Yes, and in
Why-
our
why-
drafts,
why
there's.
am I-
Sorry, it's because
What am I doing
It just
wrong?
was-
it's
You're not
because we're
looking-
adding-
You're looking into the employee section, you need to look under.
We have that
employees.
combined employees, right, so you're looking.
Alright, so, but it should be, we currently have a 339, and if you look on our draft policies, it does look like there is a new draft of 339.
But, no, there we can change
There were
We
some
haven't looked at
changes.
that one yet.
Yeah, there are some changes that are, that you did make, Ken.
Okay, all right.
But they weren't done in a policy committee meeting.
Right, it just missed, we just missed it from the agenda.
Got it, okay. I think mostly it was just moving stuff from policy.
All right, since it wasn't on the agenda, we're just gonna, we're just gonna do 339, both the policy and the AR next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So that takes us to 702 then. Assuming we're done with all the 338s, all the ARs.
So we did discuss this before.
Two years ago.
No.
No,
More recent.
January we discussed it.
Yeah.
And I only know that because my notes are dated January.
There we go.
So why are we back here? I can't remember what the.
I
why
think we were just doing it all with, I don't know, I can't remember why we didn't get it on the agenda.
It was, the AR was approved 11/7/2016, but the policy hasn't been approved since 2008.
Yeah, so we had it on our agenda and it said, I'm looking at my notes too. That it looked like, I thought
Very
it was
minor
the first
changes.
reading for it, maybe it just got missed.
I think we decided to.
Oh, we just didn't
not
get
go
to it. No, in
Whether-
January, we just didn't get to it. It was on the agenda. I think just numerically, it gets getting pushed to the bottom. And so it was on our agenda in January, but my note is we just didn't get to it.
And there's,
I think we did discuss it because the phrase moral turpitude appears and I remember having that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's, yeah, those were
Turpitude, not turpitude.
That's right, because I believe I offered a challenge to Mr. Sirota that.
That's right.
well,
And I failed.
are you talking about the administrator's minor changes in policy? Very minor. So I don't,
I mean, I'm looking
All
at it.
about turpitude.
Yeah, the changes don't start until page 2. In fact, the changes are pretty much all on page 2.
you looking at the AR?
Policy.
Policy.
there's like
I don't
1, 2,
see any.
3, there's very minor changes.
I'm just looking at mine. I mean, I can see a few things highlighted.
Yeah, it was on the agenda, but I don't know what happened. All right. Any changes to this?
So Ken, all this, at the end of the year, we have our academic awards, and there's a lot of, some financial that goes through the guidance office. Are there any, does this address when the money comes in to our guidance office, and there should be,
Right. You talking about when it comes in?
yeah, scholarships or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah, that should all be approved by the board.
We should just check with Bob. I don't know. I mean, there's so many awards.
You can put a dollar threshold on it, I think we did.
There's,
Yeah, I have no idea what those dollars.
So my only, I'm reading my old comments, all of my comments were addressed, except one, I had a question about moral turpitude. So the paragraph says, we reserve the right to discontinue if the individual group is engaged in any act of moral turpitude. My question was, is that the only reason that we can discontinue? And I think we had a discussion about it. I don't mean to reopen the discussion we already had.
Any active more?
Well, what happens, what will happen, if you have a naming right, where someone's actually paying for it, there will be a contract that provides for that, and there'll be a clause in there that says under what circumstances you can remove.
Right.
If you wanted to put additional circumstances in a particular contract, that's fine, you can do that.
Yeah, that was my question. If it's all in the contract, this is fine. If we do need to have more policy.
Only if you plan on giving away naming rights as opposed to, just gonna decide to name it.
Kind of there in the part, right, or in the position we keep doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's zoning, it's zoning was paid for.
Well, that actually, so there's at the beginning of the policy, it's under, I think it's, under naming rights, it says, this does not include the right of the district to name a facility for a group of individuals based on that group of individuals' long-term non-monetary contributions.
Yeah, right. It wouldn't apply.
So, yeah.
Sometimes what we do, these contracts is put in, like, well, the gift shall otherwise comply with board policy, so if we don't have it. We have something to say.
That was my only,
Especially if it's something small, like.
otherwise I think it's good to go. The policy at least is good to go. Maybe we held it if we didn't have an AR. No, we have an AR since 2016.
I think it's
My
just
note was
always
that
been
they
at
didn't
the
get
bottom, and it is probably because numerically, but I'm looking at the policy draft, and there's not many changes anyway.
Very few changes to it. So, all right, so are there any changes to the AR?
I see nothing else.
There's nothing for the, doesn't look like it for the AR.
I mean, my memory now, so I could be wrong, but I also think you just wanted to refresh your recollection of what the rules were.
Right. Sometimes we just look at policies for review, but okay. So there's a couple changes to 702s. Do they literally need to be made at a meeting? Let me look and see. Are they substantive at all?
No, you can just announce the event.
Okay. They're not substantive changes, so we don't need a first reading.
We changed from may to a shall.
You just,
That's not the most, I mean.
That's it, right?
Change.
yeah, that's the encouragement.
Okay.
So we can
So you
keep
can
it
just
as
announce
an
it's been-
informational item?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we made non-substantive changes to 702 and we reviewed AR 702. So we can update the date that's up there in the
Yeah.
top of the
Word doc.
board docs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now, there was a section, back in January, there was a section in the policy about technology donations, gifts, that was duplicated in the AR. I can't even find it in the ARL. My note says it was duplicated. My note says specifically,
The air and then question March of 18.
it just says duplicated. The whole paragraph is duplicated, but it doesn't say where. But there doesn't appear to be anything about technology in the AR now. So I wonder if we lost some language that we wanted.
We still have it in policy.
Do we have the tech thing in the policy still?
No. It's in the draft.
Here it is, yeah, it is here. All the technology equipment must meet technical requirements as established by the Director of Technology. All right, so I guess it's fine. There's no conflict here, no duplicates.
All right.
So
Yeah, so we're just making, it's just going to be in the legislative.
updating the.
Yep, that we made some non-substantive changes to the policy and we reviewed the administrative regulation. We get to 301 in 5 minutes.
301.1 with the relatives.
That one I don't think
We can't get to that.
Maybe 301, we can.
Yeah. That's. Nepotisms.
I'm fine with the way creating a position 301 is written.
The only significant change I can see really is at the end, it says, well, it's just may, the word may through the superintendent. We changed administrators to employees. But it's just a may, so it's fine. Other than that, I see, there's no substantive change at all. Policy.
Yeah.
This can just be another notification.
And,
We are cutting something, we are adding that first sentence under purpose.
Well, it was just about administration, now it's administrative professional support employees, but
Yeah.
right now, it's not.
Because we're changing those
No,
like
yeah.
300.
It's not, right, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not a substantive change.
Do you agree with that? Can we do this as a non-substantive change, or should we do this as a first reading, Ken?
It's a consolidation, it's fine to do as a review.
Okay.
You're repealing current 301, 401, 501.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already doing is consolidating.
Consolidation. Okay, so that'll be in the information too, that 301 just the consolidated language, but no substantive changes. All right. I don't think we can get anything else in 1 minute. We have abolishing position ready for repeal, 310. Are we?
Because that was
Where did we
included
include that?
and there's a note
In
somewhere.
311, but we're not discussing 311 right now, so.
Oh, so yeah, so we're not ready for that then, okay. All right. So we just need to get to these. All right, so we'll add 301.1, 308, 310, 355 on for the June policy committee meeting. So, all right, so we have very few second reads actually for the legislative meeting. 321, 320, and 322. And then we have first reads for, or repeated first read, or I guess it's slightly new because we're made some changes to 123, repeated first read for 130, a first read for 360, a first read for 338. And then we are making 2 announcements that we reviewed and made non-substantive changes to both 702 and the 301. So, all right.
The policy meeting next month is the same day of graduation,
yes,
so we're okay with that.
I think so.
I don't care if that works for everybody else. So,
I'm fine with
We can come to knock out again.
yeah, there we go. We can,
it. I'm wearing my cap around that whole week.
that's fine. All right, so we don't have any community
I don't wear
members
my
here, so we don't have public input at this point. Let me finish the meeting. All right, so we, yeah, so we'll be back at our next meeting on June 10th. Thank you.